Good evening and welcome to tonight's special report. Today's hot topic, a victorious return. After years of making headlines overseas, Kim Taehyung, the self-made diva who took the international business world by storm, has returned to her homeland. The screen behind the reporter shifted to video of Taehyung stepping out of Korea's international airport, wearing a designer suit that announced her success with the utmost pride, her sunglasses concealing the reflection of her past in her eyes and sheltering them from the camera's flashes. She was the woman in her prime, confident, powerful, and untouchable. She was the woman who had chose herself. Once a name whispered in local circles, Kim Taehyung rose to fame after moving abroad, where she built a multi-millionaire dollar empire in the fashion industry. Known for her sharp business tactics and bold decisions, Taehyung quickly became a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. But tonight she returned to where it all began, back to the roots she left behind. The camera shifted to footage of Taehyung guarded by her guards, passing through a crowd of reporters who bombarded her with questions about her plans, her vision, and of course, the personal story that had intrigued the public for so long, her husband, Kim Taehyung, who she neither divorced nor returned to. Everyone wanted an answer, but she knew how to keep them guessing. So without bothering to answer anyone, she went into her car that was waiting for her at the entrance and drove away. After 2 years, she is back. What will be her next move? Will she appeal for divorce from Kim Taehyung? Huh? Jimin studied his friend for a moment, recognizing that spark of challenge in Tai's eyes. She still has my surname. That's what you are holding on to? A surname? There was a note of surprise in his voice. It's not just a name, Jimin. It's a claim. And as long as she carries it, she's still mine. Not for too long. What do you mean? Getting intrigued. Jeon Jungkook. He also landed in Korea last night. And they are rumored to be dating. Only stupids believe in such rumors. Scoff. And you were one of them few years back. Pointed to a time when he believed that Taehyung, Miso. And I have learned my lesson. Next day, as the sinking sun painted the world in shades of amber and grey, Taehyung walked in the graveyard, where her other half is sleeping peacefully, or perhaps waiting for her. Taehyung, who had kept her cold, composed facade for years, kneeled in front of Miso's grave and whispered softly, as if to wake up a sleeping loved one. Only, I'm back. The words hung in the air, fragile and unsure. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her mind, but now she was here. The reality overwhelmed her. However, a sudden flow of calming, soothing wind blew around her, as if Miso had wrapped Taehyung in a welcoming embrace full of love. This brought tears to Taehyung's eyes, but she smiled slightly before continuing. I did it. Her voice cracked as the first tear slid down her cheek. I made it, only. I became everything we dreamed of, everything you always told me I could be. She choked on a sob, pressing her hand to her mouth as the tear flowed freely. The cold, detached businesswoman was gone and got replaced by the girl who had once laughed and cried with her best friend, who had made promises and shared secrets under the star. But you're not here, she continued, her words broken by sobs. She could not finish the sentence, the weight of her grief pressing down on her, leaving her gasping for air. There is not a single moment when I don't wish you were there with me. She closed her eyes and let the tears fall onto the earth beneath her, as if offering a piece of herself to the friend she had lost. Wiping her own tears, she took a paper out of her purse and spoke. Look, I'm going to build the largest orphanage in Seoul after your name. I'm going to make sure everyone knows your name. They'll know you were part of this, part of me, because without you, none of this would have been possible. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves around her, and for a brief moment, Taehyung swore she could hear Miso's laughter, light and carefree, like it used to be. It brought a bittersweet smile to her lips, whereas more tears fell from her eyes. But I'm here to complain about someone. Your brother, that Kim. His name stopped on her lips, and she huffed in annoyance. What kind of husband he is, huh? A childish frown danced between her brows. I know I have left him hanging, but he deserved it. I know I would have done worse if I were in his shoes, but doesn't he know how much I love him since childhood? How can he just not care? Did he ever care me though? Did he ever wonder where I went or why? Was it just a chapter in a book he finished reading and then closed? He did not even bother to see if I was okay or not. Is he just waiting for me to file for divorce? She sobbed while looking down for a few minutes, but then suddenly she stopped and looked up, as if someone had knocked some sense into her. It's my fault. I asked him to let me go, to give me freedom, and I was the one who left without telling him. He's just respecting my decision. Getting confused by her own thoughts, she groaned in frustration. Ugh! I know I'm sounding like a lovesick puppy, but I don't know anything anymore. Do something, Unni. Knock some sense into him, or become his nightmare. I don't care. Wind like a stubborn kid. Just tell him that I'm ready to move on. Move on with him. But before that, I'll take revenge of all the tears I wasted on him. She sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand, her expression full of determination. Standing on her feet, she smiled, looking at the grave, and said, I'll come back soon, okay? And maybe next time, I'll have better news about your ridiculous brother. One week later, thanks POV. Sitting absent-mindedly in the industry conference, my thoughts were once again captivated by her, my wife. I was living with our bittersweet moments, reliving the times when we used to be something more than friends, the time when I messed up everything between us, when I suddenly saw her standing in front of me. I kept looking at her, lost in her, letting myself freeze under her cold gaze. I love it when my mind plays tricks on me by making me see her as if she is in front of me, when in reality, she is not. I snapped back to her reality when she sat on the seat beside me, accompanied by Jeon Jungkook. I was staring at her with my eyes wide open and my breath stuck in my throat, when she slowly moved her head to face me and tossed me a cold glance. Her one gaze made me dizzy, as if I had been drinking my whole life. Without speaking a word, she shifted her uninterested stare away from me and looked ahead. I could not help but study her as if she were my only subject. After all, she had been all those years. Her tailored suit was neat and commanding, while her hair pulled back in a sleek style only added to her ice-cold, professional demeanor. The meeting started, and I tried to focus on the discussion, but my mind kept drifting back to her. Every word she spoke was sharp, precise, and cutting. She was in control of the room, and my heart ached with the burden of everything unresolved between us. During the conversation, whenever she threw me a random glance, I failed to catch any sign that she even remembered me. How do you plan to move forward with the new merger? One of the board members asked her. We have already finalized the terms with our partner. The deal is set to close next quarter, and I'll be handling the integration process personally. Without missing a beat, she calmly answered him, her tone dripping with unshakable confidence. Soon after the meeting ended, so did my hope, as Jeon Jungkook, who was sitting beside her, decided to crush my feelings under his boots. When are you going to grace me with your precious time so we can finally pick out our engagement rings? I mean, I know you're busy conquering the world and all, but a guy has needs, sparkly, shiny needs. A mischievous grin spreading across his face as he whispered a little loudly, making sure that Tai could listen to his dialogues. Playing alone. Once I'm done with some old paperwork, indicated about divorce. Listening to their conversation, my heart fell in the pit of my stomach and all my hopes died altogether. I gulped and blinked my tears away while looking down. I think there is no way out now. It's time to call it quits for good. It's time to put an end to me. Shortly after the meeting was over, without having guts to glance at Ty, without losing myself, me and Jungkook left the room and walked to our car directly, which we had shared on the way to the meeting. It was necessary to make Taehyung believe that time is short for him. He should grab me and drag me back into his life. About Jungkook, well, he is Yeri's brother-in-law, my business partner, and he already has a girlfriend, who is also a good friend of mine. When I asked for his help in making my husband jealous, he was all in. Because why not? Handed her a ring. This engagement ring is a symbol of our undying fake love. Dramatically spoke. It's a ring made of tissue paper. You made it yourself. Seriously? Gave him a down look. Your husband is going to need these tissue papers. Poor guy. Laughed while thanking God for not putting him in Taehyung's place.